And we're live from the digital studios here at Up North Live. I am Up North Live Sports Director Harrison Beeby. Once again, Brendan Quealy, the Traverse City Record Eagle Sports Editor. He's got a slightly shorter name title this time. He just went with Brendan Quealy instead.
You know what? I was running a little bit late. I didn't want to waste time. Everyone knows who I am. I'm obviously famous by now.
The guy who swore on the segment last week. Everybody knows who you are.
Dropping the.
You made a statement.
Yeah.
Well, but we'll keep this very PG. We are still going to talk about exactly.
I'll do my best.
Well, yeah, please do your best. We're both wearing sweaters. We look very cordial and polite and respectful. Like we're going to Thanksgiving dinner because this is November, but the playoffs are still going on.
You've got the stuffing on. I've got the cranberry sauce on.
Yep, man, we just need a couple more colors and we're a full table. I obviously have a lot more teams left than Brendan in the Traverse City Record Eagle coverage area, but I'm really quick going to break down our matchups for anybody who's wondering who's still alive. If you didn't know if your school was still, most of you, I probably assume, know if your school is still in the tournament. But for those who want to keep tabs, for a lot of schools that unfortunately bowed out last week. In Division 3, we have a district final between Petoskey and Gaylord. In Division 4, Big Rapids will be visiting Whitehall. In Division 6, we got a couple matchups. Manistee is traveling to Kingsley, and Hart is heading to Reed City. In Division 7, we have a district final. Charlevoix heading up to Menominee, as well as McBain taking on Beaverton. And a couple of games in the 8-player divisions. For Division 1, for 8-player, we have Norway at Pickford and Inland Lakes and St. Ignace. And then in Division 2, for 8-player, Marion is hosting Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart. Brendan, you guys don't cover Marion, right?
We have 7 schools left, or 7
you have
teams
Petoskey,
left.
Gaylord,
Right.
Manistee,
Kingsley,
Charlevoix,
McBain,
Inland Lakes, and McBain. Okay, correct. McBain's your school that you're featuring as well. So yeah, I have 12. You have 7. We'll start with that. Took kind of a hit last week. Yeah, I know you and I talked earlier in the year how, Northern Michigan as a whole for football, it might not have been as competitive as we'd seen in years past. And unfortunately, I think you kind of saw that in week 1 with all the teams bowing out so early, especially having to go on the road to the UP and whatnot. But we kind of got decimated here from round 1 to round 2.
Yeah, you lost 17 teams, and I out of the 17 that we had, we lost 10. And there were a couple of surprises for sure. I mean, obviously last week I was singing Grayling's praises, and they put up a fight against Negaunee. I mean, I think it was 46-30, 47 to 34.
Game.
It was a high-scoring game. They put up a fight, but I really thought that this was the year for Grayling, and I thought that hot streak that they got on at the end of the year was going to help. East Jordan lost as well, but they were hurt by some injuries. Logan Shooks was out of that game. He's really one of their biggest offensive weapons on the ground. Frankfurt lost as well. I think that had to do with some injuries and obviously having a smaller roster playing in 11-man. So yeah, those were some surprises, and losing as many teams as we did kind of gives us the opportunity now to focus a little bit more on the teams that we have left. And for us, I think it's really nice that we have 2 marquee matchups in Kingsley versus Manistee and Petoskey versus Gaylord.
All right. So you helped me segue to that, which is nice. Really, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the bigger game? Maybe not in the ramifications of, which team is going to go the farthest when it's all said and done, because going to last week, I had Gaylord winning a title. You had Kingsley. But of those 2 matchups, Manistee at Kingsley and Petoskey at Gaylord, which one do you think is the bigger heavyweight fight going into Friday night?
Wow, that is a really good question. Which one is the bigger heavyweight fight? I mean, because you have 2 8-2 teams in Kingsley and Manistee going up against each other, and then you have Petoskey, which is 6-4, going up against Gaylord, which is undefeated. But the last time they met, which was week 4 of this season, it was only a 9-0 score, with Gaylord coming out on top, obviously, as they're undefeated. So, man, you asked me this question off the air, and I've been trying to think about it and trying to give you a good answer, because I think both games are so important. But if we're going to be talking about who's throwing punches here, I think Kingsley and Manistee have the potential to put up some points. I think the 2 teams combined to score 105 points in their playoff games last week. Kingsley 61 and Manistee 44. So that has the potential to be the one where some haymakers are thrown. But Kingsley is also just so good at defending the ball, keeping control of the ball. And one thing that I noticed when I was out at the game on Friday taking some photos was their biggest weapon is their deception. They are really good on offense at hiding the ball and getting that split second of advantage on their opponent where the defenders are trying to figure out who has the ball, where's the ball going. That's what has made Kingsley so effective this season.
Yeah, Tim War's offenses throughout the years when he's been at West or Kingsley, whenever I go to their games, I'm constantly reassessing where I think that ball's going if I'm shooting the highlights. And for the most part, I've got kind of a read on where the team is going positioning wise. But yeah, as far as who's the ball handler and where they're going, that sometimes takes an extra second or two. And that's what Manistee is having to prepare for here in round 2. But I think you're right. I think we're going to see the fireworks in Manistee and Kingsley, and that's going to be the one where the offenses unload. But this Petoskey-Gaylord rivalry, it's so unique. They've never met in the playoffs before.
No, and they've played 67 times?
Right. And they've always, as far as I've known, I'm sure somebody can probably correct us if they're watching at home. As far as I've known them in the past several, maybe decade or even 2, since I went to a Big North school about 20 years ago, they've both been in Division III. So that's even more alarming. It's not like they've shuffled divisions. They're around the same size school, but they've never met in the playoffs. And so we've seen Traverse City Central and Traverse City West meet in the playoffs twice, and we've never seen Petoskey and Gaylord, which is kind of crazy. So that caveat alone, I think, makes that one pretty intense and pretty exciting. But yeah, you've got 9-0. I mean, I don't have the schedules in front of me, but besides the Kingsley matchup, was that Gaylord's closest game maybe?
I think it would have to be. I don't have the schedule in front of me either. But
that's what the beauty of doing a digital studio. You can go online while you're talking to someone and look it right up.
The great thing about this matchup is that you have a very motivated team on each side of the ball, right? Petoskey is motivated. They're like, we were close. We could have been Gaylord's one loss in the regular season. And Gaylord is like, we could have played better against Petoskey in that Week 4 matchup, and we need to show not only ourselves, not only Petoskey, not only the viewing public, but anyone who's been doubting Gaylord throughout the season that what they're doing is no fluke. Mm-hmm. And again, that makes that a heavyweight matchup. These 2 games. And fortunately, we get to cover both of them. Are the 2 best, 2 of the best in the state this week.
Definitely, and thanks to our friends at Michigan-football.com, I got a little ahead of myself. The Gaylord beat TCUS 13-7 in Week 1, so that was just a 6-point.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I referenced the Kingsley matchup. That was 42-39 in Week 2. And they had a close one when Lumen Christi came to town. That one was 24-21. So Gaylord's been in a lot of close games, which I think is good for them to give them that feel of like a competitive environment in the fourth quarter. I think that's going to come in handy in some of these key playoff matchups. But Petoskey was one of those close games. The only team that Gaylord was able to keep scoreless all year was the rival Northmen. And now Petoskey, fresh off a win over Marquette that they lost that game in the regular season, now they got that mindset, hey, we beat that one team on the road. Now we can go even a lot closer than we went last week and potentially knock off another. So there's a lot of good storylines in that Big North Conference rematch. Another game that I want to circle for you, Brendan, and maybe I'll combine these 2 games since we honed in on those 2 games in the last segment. In the Lakes visiting St. Ignace in the 8-player Division I regional finals. Let's put that one up with Charlevoix and Menominee in Division 7. Which lower peninsula team do you think has a better shot to knock off a top-tier upper peninsula team in these road games?
Ooh, all right, better shot for the win. Again, you look at Charlevoix, they're 9-1 and have a great deal of weapons on their offense. The only thing that hurts them, and I think it's something that hurt Benzie Central last week when they had to go to Menominee, is the drive. I know that they played the games on Saturday, which means I would imagine they probably left on Friday and made the trip up there then. But that's still a long drive. It's still taxing. Take this from a guy who has made 5-6 hour drives more times than I can
Routinely.
count over the last year. It takes a lot out of you. And that could be tough for Charlevoix to overcome. St. Ignace and Inland Lakes, 2 9-1 teams. And right there, that's where you try to find the smallest little advantages that each team will have. St. Ignace has home field advantage. That kind of gives them the upper leg here. So if I had to choose one, I think both of these teams are kind of behind the 8 ball for reasons not on the field, which seems odd to say. But if I had to pick one team here, I will go with Charlevoix. I think that they have the weapons on the field to overcome a long travel and the discipline to win that game.
Yeah, I think the Raiders learned a lot last week in getting that win back and a lightning delay over Traverse City St. Francis. They've now won 9 straight, right? Because
Yep.
they're 9-1. So
Yep.
that's 9 straight wins. Just check Menominee's schedule. They lost to Negaunee and Kingsford in the regular season, which are 2 good opponents, but it just shows they can be beat. So if Charlotte puts together the right game plan. I like your analysis. St. Ignace, to me, has a lot of vibes of back in the day when it was we had Central Lake win it all in 2017. We had Onekma make the state finals in 2018. Those first year 8-man programs, they're kind of making that dent. This is the Saints' first year in 8-player after having some pretty strong seasons about 10 years down the road. St. Ignace was a pretty powerful 11-man program, making some state semifinals and whatnot. This being their first year in 8-man, I think they're kind of reaping some of those benefits of going down and seeing that the competitive balance is a little more in their favor. But Inland Lakes is a team that's coming off a Ski Valley championship, and we know they've had a strong regular season schedule. So I think those games as well are very intriguing. Brendan, does McBain have any chance to go to Beaverton and get a W?
I think so. I mean, they put up 44 points last week as well. So that offense can score points. And if you can put points on the board in the postseason, you can get wins. It's simply about, and this is the Tim McCarver of analysis. If you can score more than your opponent, you're probably going to win the game.
I've heard that statistic, and that's
I think
why
they're like undefeated. Yeah,
I try and do that in golf. I try and score more than my opponent, and it usually works. So I just put them into the woods. Bonus question for football fans. Leland is in the state semifinals for boys soccer tonight. They got the rematch with their rival Muskegon Western Michigan Christian. That's a team that beat them 3-0 in the regular season. They beat them in the semifinal 3-1. I'm not telling you to pick a winner, but more, what does Leland, you think, have to do in this rematch here to one up West Michigan Christian and get to their first state final since 2018?
They have to score first. It's that simple. They have to score the first goal. They can't get behind, because if they do, I think that deflates the morale on the team right away. So if they can either come out and score early in the first half, score late in the first half, or take it into the second half 0-0, I think that gives them a chance, because that will make Western Michigan Christian worry a little bit. And if you can put a little seed of doubt into your opponent's mind, you can grow that into a win.
There we go. All right, one more bonus question. I'll make the running
Okay.
fans happy. Does Aiden Heron win another state title?
Yes.
Country state finals.
Yes, she does. Yeah. I went out to Buckley for their regional on Saturday morning and watched her win, set a new personal record. And she was still, I gave her a little time to rest, but she was still not too out of breath where she wasn't able to talk to me for an interview afterwards. So I think she has a little more in the tank, and if the conditions are right, I can see her breaking her goal of 17:30.
Yeah, we're all cheering for that. It was nice of you to give her a little time. When I caught up with her at the conference championship meet in Benzie, I just kind of huddled around. I'm like, "Hey, now good?" And she's like, "Yeah, we're fine." She'd won that race by about 90 seconds or so. Minute.
Yeah, I think she won the regional she beat Leland Zellick and Knutson by might have been a minute more than that.
Yeah, obviously a very talented runner, one of the best times in the state, regardless of division. But last I checked, athletic.net, there was a freshman from a downstate school that had a time that was right around hers. So if that girl's feeling up for it, we might have a little bit of a battle. But I
Oh
would
boy. Okay.
edge for experience for sure. So, and I know I've raced on that MIS course quite a few times. So everybody's like, we don't care. Just go back to picking out sweaters, Harrison.
So you run, do you finish on the track or do you just run on the track the whole time?
No, you start in the infield.
Okay.
In the middle there, and then you go out unless they've tweaked it. But when I ran it about 20 years ago now, you start in the infield and you run out, and then a majority of the course is outside on the back end, and then you enter in on the back side. If you're at the finish line, you enter in on the back side start stretch, or where a 200-meter dash would start on a track. Think about that point although the finish line is at the middle of the track, not at the other end, but think about where the 200-meter dash would start on a normal track.
Is it on the road? Like, is it on the road? So it's not like Ricky Bobby. It's not Talladega Nights where they're running on the actual.
No. Well, there's portions where you're running across it, but there's dirt and stuff.
Okay.
You're not actually running on the concrete. They pad that down so the surface is friendly for the shoes and whatnot. Yeah, you go out the one end and you come back the other, and then the final 3/4 of the last mile, you're on the grassy part right next to the track, and then you finish right near the finish line where the NASCAR race is finished. So it's a pretty cool setup. I always said for cross country, I know my dad and other spectators were not a fan of that being the host for the state finals, but I always thought it added to the gravitas of the event. It made it feel like a big deal, even though the stands weren't full. It's like you're at MIS, you're at a giant stadium for your championship race. It always made it feel like a bigger deal than your average cross country race. So
yeah.
So good luck to Aiden and all our runners. We know there's teams out there looking for repeat state championships like Traverse City, St. Francis, and Johannesburg, Lewiston. So we want to give a shout out to all our cross country runners competing in the state finals on Saturday, and as well as Leland boys soccer tonight, and the football teams and the volleyball teams. We know it's volleyball madness is going on. Brendan and I are both going to games in a little bit here. So November and March are the two busiest months of the year, and we're in the thick of it right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, but it'll start settling down after Saturday, right?
It will. Yep. You get down to the nitty gritty at that point, the regional volleyball teams and the regional football teams. So, all right, Brendan, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Enjoy Dynamite tonight.
I will after I'm done with work. It's going to be a long night, but I definitely will.
All righty. Well, thank you so much at home for joining us. Maybe you're going to enjoy Dynamite tonight. Maybe you don't know what Dynamite is, and that's okay. We'll explain maybe next week here on the Up North Live Digital Studios. I'm Harrison Beeby. Have a good one.